Thank you. Members, compose yourself.
If we act as honourable members, we must stop every single attempt for people that want a license to loot. It is happening right in front of us in Gauteng right now. And we sit here and make as if nothing is happening. We see what is happening in front of the Zondo Commission. There is a license to loot. But I will proceed, Honourable Deputy Speaker, because there is a statutory obligation. Because when all of us here in this House took an oath of office, we took an oath of office that we will protect all laws in this country. And Madam Speaker, my concern for this license to loot is rooted in section 15.2.2 of the National Treasury Regulations, which determined, and I quote, each provincial treasury must have a bank account configuration that consists of at least an exchequer bank account and a paymaster general account opened with a commercial bank, unquote. The notion of a state bank, Honourable Speaker, comes at a time when South Africa is reeling under the revelations of the Zondo Commission and the earlier happenings at VBS Bank. South Africa cannot afford a further state capture, and the Provincial State Bank will certainly create another opportunity for those who are determined to raid the state coffers. I have made an appeal to the National Treasury to intervene in this matter, as any attempt to establish a provincial state bank will be in contravention of the National Treasury Regulations as amended. It is therefore my contention that the National Minister Tito Mboweni, as the head of the Treasury, must ensure good financial governance in all spheres of government in South Africa. Agbare Speaker, soos wat met die Internasionale Monetaire Fonds ook na 'n onlangse besoek in Suid-Afrika uitgelig het, moet ons indringend kyk na die sakemodelle van staatsondernemings. Besnoeiings en bateverkope is van die opsies om mee te begin, maar volhoubaarheid moet sentraal wees in die nuwe sakeplanne. Daar kan nie voortgegaan word om kontantinspuitings en staatswaarborge te gebruik as reddingsboeie vir swak presterende entiteite nie. Die arbeidsmark, agbare Speaker, moet ook indringend hersien word. Loonverhogings moet hand aan hand gaan met groter produktiwiteit. Verhogings moet bekostigbaar wees en gesentraliseerde ooreenkomste behoort nie kleiner ondernemings se mededingendheid aan bande te lê nie. Bevorder mededinging oor 'n breë front, agbare Speaker, van mynbou tot telekommunikasie en die finansiële tegnologie en die banksektor en bevestig ook titelsekuriteit. Verminder ook beleidsonsekerheid, byvoorbeeld oor grondhervorming deur te fokus op beter produktiwiteit in die landbousektor. Ook verbeter ons belastingadministrasie, agbare Speaker, en oorweeg ook bestedingsplafonne. Hoewel van hierdie beleidsmaatreëls onder die nasionale fiskus val, is die Wes-Kaapse regering en ons tesourie ernstige vennote om die fiskale raamwerk reg te ruk in die begrotingsraad. Madam Speaker, in the words of Max Dupree, we cannot shout new dawn as hard and as often as we like.
Minister, may I kindly take your seat, please? Someone's cell phone's causing a disruption. I don't know if you're watching a movie or what is happening, but it is interfering. Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Madam Speaker, in the words of Max Dupree, we can shout new dawn as hard and as often as we like, but if we cannot significantly increase the levels of productivity and honesty of our administrators and bureaucrats, the sun will struggle to rise. Madam Speaker, the Western Cape government, however, remains committed to changing the South African landscape. We do so confident in our ability to bring meaningful benefits to the citizens of the Western Cape. Honourable
Order,
Madam Speaker.
please. Honourable Danke, Honourable Danke, you're entitled to an opinion. If you want to pose a question, you do it through the chair, please. Thank you. Well, ask me the question and I will ask the Minister.
Please pass the DA interviews for him to come
Honourable
back.
Danke, that is not a question.
Really just
That is a frivolous. That is a frivolous. Honourable Danke, that is a frivolous point of order. Members on both sides of the House. Honourable Danke, that is a frivolous point of order. If you continue in that vein, thank you. You may continue.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have seen that the ANC has created an environment in the rest of South Africa where everyone has to rise to their level of incompetence. Today we heard the shocking revelation from a senior minister in the Zuma cabinet that he warned the former president. He warned today, Honourable Deputy Speaker.
Order, please, members. I'm going to allow the Minister to continue. Minister Mayor.
Honourable Speaker, today we heard the shocking revelation of a senior minister in the Zuma cabinet that he warned the former president that he has auctioned off executive authority to third parties. A shocking statement. He warned the then president.
Order, please.
Honourable Deputy.
Members, sorry, Minister, kindly take your seat. Members, you choose to be in this chamber. If you don't like what you're hearing, you can exercise an option, but please do not be disruptive. And to say that it's a waste of time, if it's your time that's being wasted, then you have the choice to leave. But please do not be belligerent in your comments. Thank you. You may proceed, Minister.
Honourable Speaker, today we have heard the shocking revelation of a senior minister in the Zuma cabinet that he warned the former president that he has auctioned off the executive authority to third parties. He warned the then president that his successor would inherit an empty office with the Guptas around and running his office. Honourable Speaker, this may explain the snail pace at which President Zuma's successor is addressing the obvious things that he has to do to assist in the recovery of our economy. According to this witness, the Gupta ministers virtually camped at the Gupta compound in Saxon World and were boastful of their association with this family. This alliance led to the diary. The diary of the president was set at Saxon World. This, Madam Speaker, the diary of the president was determined at Saxon World. But this...
Order, please.
This is why this country is collapsing under the ANC. Madam Speaker, this will not happen in the Western Cape. That's why the ANC will never get back to this Western Cape. We will win the 2019 elections. We will retain the Western Cape because the people of the Western Cape have confidence in this government and our pursuit of clean governance. Honourable Speaker, in our engagement with the citizens, they gave us a clear message for 2019. We have clearly listened to the people and crafted a careful manifesto. That's why a DA national government will fight corruption. We will fix the police force. so that it protects and serves South Africans, including people like you, Honourable Member. It will create fair access to real and long-term sustainable jobs. We will secure our borders, Honourable Member. We will also speed up delivery of services, Honourable Member Chatham. We need change in South Africa that builds one South Africa for all. Honourable Member, the change we want in South Africa has already started in the Western Cape. 10 million people in South Africa are unemployed, but we are driving the jobs agenda in the Western Cape. The following are selected companies that have already invested in the Western Cape. Amazon.
Okay, Minister, may I kindly take your seat, please? There's too much noise on both sides of the House. I don't know who's engaging with who, but at the cost of pointing out the Honourable Olivier, who will say I'm picking on him, I don't understand who it is you are talking to, but I sense Minister Windy might have a hand in it. So, yeah, and then Honourable Makaleni, if you could also tone down just a little bit, we could get on with the business of the day. You may proceed, Minister.
Getting on with the business, Honourable Speaker, is exactly what the Western Cape has been doing. The new companies have invested in the Western Cape. As you know, Amazon, Hisense, Kimberly-Clark, IBM, Harvard University, Airbus, Oracle, Juwai, Wind Prospect and Panasonic. During the 2017 international arrivals in the Western Cape have increased by 10.2%. Honourable Speaker, foreign spending in the Western Cape increased from 18.1 billion in 2016 to 23.1 billion in last year, 2017. 3 new international routes have been introduced during the 2018-19 financial year. Honourable Speaker, the apprenticeship game changer aims to introduce at least 11,300 qualified apprentices to the labour market by 2019. Honourable members, the Western Cape is pro-business. We will invest 30 billion rand in infrastructure over the next 3 years. Honourable Speaker, the Western Cape has already attracted 1.2 billion rand investment in the green economy. South Africa has the fastest growing green economy, and 70% of all renewable energy manufacturing takes place in the Western Cape. Honourable members, Cape Town is the business meeting capital of Africa and hosted the largest number of international associations on the continent. 34,000 international delegates attended conferences in the Western Cape in 2017. Honourable members, 1 million bottles of South African wine are sold every single day. 21 out of the 23 South African wine routes are located in the Western Cape.
Order, please.
Honourable Speaker, the Western Cape is focusing on doing the basic things right. This government believes in a constitutional democracy, the rule of law, the protection of property rights, the free market-based economy, the Bill of Rights, and in establishing a democratic political culture. These principles are fundamental, and these are the things that are monitored by investors. Gross fixed capital formation is largely driven through investor confidence. The Western Cape, through the medium-term budget policy statement, creates business and investor confidence by investing, Honourable Speaker, in jobs, in safety, in infrastructure, in the youth, and large investments have taken place now in the drought. I am proud of this team on this side of the House, Honourable Speaker, for driving the growth agenda, the jobs agenda, and the safety agenda. Honourable Speaker, beyond the political noise on that side of the House, we have evidence from various statutory bodies across South Africa that the Western Cape is the best run government in South Africa. I thank you.
I now see the Honourable Minister, Minister Windy.
Thank you very much, Speaker.
Order.
Speaker, before I start my speech, I noticed the Honourable Jantjie asked a question across the floor about whether the Honourable Minister of Finance had been through his interview process, and I can assure you those interviews are all completed. We are very organized, but in case the Honourable Jantjie is not in the loop from his faction, a letter sent to his province on the 26th by the African National Congress Secretary General, which says notice of extensions of the BGM, branch general meetings, for list processes has been extended. So you've got more time in which to work. And if you want the rest of this letter, if you don't get it, I'm happy to give it to you.
Order, please. All right, so, Honourable Jantjie.
Can I ask the MEC a question?
No, you can ask me if the MEC will take a question.
Yes, please.
So you can take your seat and then I shall ask the Minister. Wendy, will you take a question? Yes, the Minister will take a question.
In your interview with the DA, were you able to share with them the embarrassment you caused them when you led the Agriculture and Economic Opportunities Department, that you even had to drag the AG to court because of your failure?
Okay.
Thank you very much for that question, and I've actually prepared because I've got all of that answer here, and I will answer it in my speech. So first of all,
Honourable Jantjie, you got
Speaker,
your answer now.
I happily follow on our Minister of Finance, and he brought to the debate our economic failure as a country. What I want to do within that space as to how this country is viewed by the world, and how leadership in the country has failed, and we at the moment in this country are judged our economic failure, but not only our economic failure. The brand of this country at the moment is one of crime and corruption. You just have to monitor the Zondo Commission to see what state capture is like, and that state capture is dealing with a very peripheral top cream. At the moment, it is embedded in our systems in our country. And of course, the world is not stupid, because you just have to look at the World Economic Forum rating of this country at the moment. And the top rating of most problematic factors of doing business in South Africa is one of corruption. If you look at that bar chart, it is the biggest problem in our country. The noise at the moment is the space that we've got, which is a corrupt country. And if we really want to change this, we have to change the tone at the top. And everyone will agree that that tone at the top over the last while has been led over the last 10 years by Zuma and Gupta. And they've led that tone at the top. We now have an opportunity, Madam Speaker, to change that, to change the tone at the top. We need to make sure that we bring into our legislatures, we need to make sure that we bring in ethics, truth, values into our system. If we are to really fix this, and my portfolio that I now head up, which is one of crime, one of corruption, one of dealing with this cancer that is rotting our country.
Honourable Jantjie, we have been through this before. An interjection cannot become a running commentary, but you cannot pose a direct question to the Minister without going through the chair. So kindly manage yourself. It's becoming disruptive, so please. Thank you. You may proceed, Minister. Honourable Jantjie, who are you for the Minister to report to? Please now. You trying to usurp my role here. Just manage yourself, please. Thank you. You may proceed, Minister.
Thank you very much. So if we bring it back to the province, about getting the tone right, making sure that we've got values and ethics in how we do things as the leadership in this province, in this democracy of ours, whether it's the ruling party or the opposition. We need to make sure that values and ethics become what we stand for, so that we can send that message out. Now, quite frankly, let's talk about how ethics are carried out within the opposition at the moment. So there was a press conference held. If you look at the photograph of the press conference, it is actually the ANC leadership in this province. Of course, one of the members sitting in this photograph is the chief whip of the opposition sitting in this house. And in this press conference, the campaign chairperson of the ANC blatantly lies in a press conference to the press. Blatantly lies. And I'll tell you what, I think we should actually say to him, if he has proof that the DA was involved...
Kindly take your seat, Honourable Makaleni.
Thank you, Speaker. I just want to check if it's parliamentary for a member of this House to say another member of this House lies.
And I don't think that's what was said. Minister Wendy said the campaign manager. I don't know who that is. No, that's not what I heard. Sorry, Honourable Makaleni. I think you got that one wrong.
I'll correct that. Mr. Ibrahim Rasool blatantly lied in this press conference, and I actually probably put the question to the chief whip of the opposition, that within the next 24 hours, if you want me to withdraw, apologize, or you want to confirm that he's a blatant liar, bring the proof of how the DA was involved in trying to block the anti-gang unit. He blatantly tells lies. And of course, this is the first lie. This is the first lie. So let's go to the second one.
Order, please. Welcome, Honourable Dugmore. Good afternoon. You may proceed, Minister.
Thank you. So let's go to the second one. And now, of course, honourable members in this House, we cannot accuse each other of lying. So I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to talk about a speech that was delivered on the 15th of November in this House. Honourable Member Lecker made the speech, and this is the Hansard of her speech. And in the speech, she says, the department, now she's referring to the Department of Agriculture. This is your question. The department failed and is still failing to submit 2 years of annual reports. This is on the 15th of November. On the 30th of October, 15 days earlier, the department submitted both the 2016-17 and 17-18 annual reports. They were submitted in this House to the Standing Committee, and this is the report of this House. So, of course, I'm not going to say that the honourable member was lying, but what she said in her speech in the Hansard was exactly the opposite to what the truth was of how this was tabled in this House 15 days earlier. In addition,
Minister Wendy, kindly take your seat. Honourable members, there is a conversation, and I have been listening, and it was a South African context, a Western Cape context, a culture of integrity and ethical leadership amongst others, and examples are now being quoted. So allow the minister to get to his speech, which I'm sure he's working towards. Thank you. But please practice some patience. Thank you. The minister will now proceed. Okay, but let's all stay in Cape Town. Thank you. Now, that's not what I said, Honourable Ace.
Speaker, I'll get to my speech. If the opposition would allow me to, but obviously this pains them too much. So we need leadership to start being ethical and honest and truthful. So here is an example, and one wonders what this member will do with this information that I've just given, because, of course, this was misleading the House, because the evidence, which is of this House, and a Hansard and a report of the committee, say two opposite things. The next line, which goes to the question that I was asked by the Honourable Jantjie, the Auditor General has made findings against you and your department. And that is correct. That is correct. The Auditor General did make findings against the departments. The Auditor General made findings against the department, and this is the department. The department that in 2011 received the highest score in the annual public sector reporting awards for the year ended 31 March 2010, all provincial departments in the Western Cape. In 2011, overall winner of the 2011 annual public sector reporting awards category, all national and provincial departments. highest score in the annual public sector reporting awards for the year ended 31 March 2011, category all provincial departments in the Western Cape. In 2012, overall winner of the 2012 annual public sector reporting awards category, all national and provincial departments. In 2015, highest score in the annual public sector reporting awards for the year ended 31 March 2014.
Excuse me, Honourable Jantjie, you asked a question. I take it this is the response to the question. No, so the Minister is now asking your question. So please be patient and listen. Thank you. You may proceed,
Thank you, Speaker.
Minister.
I'm prepared for any question that comes my way. So in 2015, the highest score in the annual public sector reporting awards for the year 31 March 2014, all provincial departments in the Western Cape. In 2015, the most consistent highest scores for 2013, 14 and 15. And then, of course, let's get to the Auditor General, because that wasn't the Auditor General. That was the South African Institute for Government Auditors who gave those awards. Then the Auditor General gave the PFMA Clean Audit Awards for the department for 2010-11, for 2012-13, for 2013-14, for 2014-15, and for 2015-16. And of course, then the Auditor General changed the rules, and that's why we are challenging this in court. And of course, I can assure you that if we get this right, it will actually make it easier to create jobs. A lot of that stuff that's being tackled in the Auditor General's report is how we make funding available for small black farmers, this government. But of course, I can't go into the merits of this case because it is in court at the moment. But if I got asked the question, I give the answer. He obviously doesn't like the answer, and he is walking out. He is walking out. So let's move to the same discussion in this House where the Honourable Lecker, still on the floor and still in the Hansard, Madam Speaker, I don't know where she is, but still in the Hansard, she then goes on to say things like, the charges are relating to Knysna tourism. How can a person involved in misuse of millions of public funds or illegal tourism companies be appointed as an MEC of community safety? The hawks are coming for you, my friend. So, of course, she's totally within her rights to make this kind of allegation within this House. I asked her when we went out for tea whether she would be prepared to make those allegations outside the House. I still haven't heard them made outside the House, but I put that challenge to her publicly in this House to say, come and make those statements outside the House, and we will see what will happen with that. Or, even better, why doesn't she make the statement in the House, bring the proof, and go and lay the charge at the police station if she has proof, in order to back up the statement that she made? Because my point is, we need honour and ethics, the truth. We need to come to this House. If we are to change South Africa, we need to come to this House as honourable members, with ethics, with values, with truth that back up what we talk about here in this very House, because we have to set the tone going forward. So then the next thing, Honourable Speaker, that I would like to speak about in this debate is a question that was asked to me across the floor by the Honourable Dugmore, and I'm very glad that he is here, because we were talking about a safer Western Cape. And the Honourable Dugmore said to me, but you don't invite the Standing Committee or the opposition members to this specific event. So, of course, I said I couldn't answer it directly. I said I would go and get the facts, and I have now gone and got the facts of who was invited to that specific event. Every single member of the Standing Committee was invited to the event. But guess what? That invitation was sent out on the 25th of the 10th to every single member of the Standing Committee. Then on the 1st of the 11th, a reminder was sent out. And of course, what I'm going to deal with now is who replied. And of course, one of the members, T. Dijana, replied at 18:15 and 38 seconds on the 1st of the 11th. She replied to that mail, and her reply says, yes, I will be there on both days. Unfortunately, the honourable member said that, but did not come to the meeting. So I said to the honourable member that I would bring the truth to this space, which I have brought now again. We need to make sure that in everything that we do, even when we RSVP with truth and honour. And now I would like to finish off with Bambanani. So I went to a meeting on Monday night. Of the police board, and guess who was briefing the CPFs on Bambanani? Leonard Max, on behalf of the minister. And that's fine because he is the advisor.
Minister Wendy,
but I'll tell you who was the second
if you
brief.
Can finish your second,
the Honourable
Ramatlakane
Ramatlakane was briefing the CPFs on how a government project was going to be rolled out in the Western Cape.
Minister Wendy, your time
member
has expired.
of the Oversight Committee briefing how government was going to roll something out. And again, I put the challenge to them there, and I put it here now.
Wendy,
if this is a truly government and not an ANC, it will come via this government.
Thank you. Okay, so who's going to go first? Honourable Makaleni, who wants to go first? Honourable Olivier, you are. Members, please kindly compose yourself. We now get the next speaker, the Honourable Magaka.
Thank you. Thank you, Speaker. The misconception must be dispelled of a budget that is committed to service delivery and citizen impact, as well as the claim that this is for jobs, infrastructure, youth, and safety. I draw attention to the commemoration of life of the late Fidel Castro, the Cuban communist revolutionary, and the Marxist-Leninist who passed away on the 25th of November 2016. Under his administration as a Cuban president, there was a successful program of nationalization, including execution, state socialism, reforms throughout society, which were based on providing access to basic needs of survival to all. We celebrate him in South Africa for many reasons. Most importantly, because he opened an opportunity for the poor students from historically disadvantaged background to access to higher education and training as medical doctors in Cuba, which today are benefiting the whole world. For years, Premier Zille, her party and her party have been a stumbling block for those poor children from the Western Cape to access this once in a lifetime opportunity to free themselves from the bondages of poverty and inequality and unemployment. Therefore, this DA will go down with that blood in their hands of refused innocent poor children access to education, free education. This is not surprising because the DA exists to ensure that black people remain chained by a triple yoke of oppression while racial inequalities widens. The South Africa's triple challenge of poverty, inequality, and unemployment is in racial character because of colonialism of a special type. The DA has to understand that if they don't want to end up ignorant for life. Colonialism deprives us a lot. It has oppressed us as a nation, as a class, as a gender. Therefore, we cannot resolve that crisis without acknowledging everyday policies that talk to those contradictions in an interrelated manner, not step by step. We resolve those problems at the same time. The ANC government's responsibility is to actually do that, and we're doing that in this province. The DA, instead of being occupied by spending the budget to address these challenges, it is mad in deep racial infighting. At first it was Delil, and now the fight is against a group of uneducated white people occupying senior positions in the party, like John Steyers and Alan Wynne. If MEC Mayor and the DA were serious about the budget for service delivery and citizen impact, then they must create space in the budget for the returning of medical students from Cuba who are ready to save the healthcare system in the province in the public health system that is collapsing in the province. I'm talking the one that killed my brother-in-law yesterday, who waited in Kericha Hospital for 5 days without access to bed, nor being transferred while he was terminally ill. The second development is a stern-age phenomenon which exposes an entrenched white privilege in the DA. Black members must have postgraduate qualification to be considered for position, while for their white counterparts, an anointed matric and less is enough to get senior position, like that one of the chief whip. Lest we forget that in this legislature, we once had an astute lawyer and a sharp thinker by the name of Leonard Max with a vast experience in the safety. He had brilliant ideas to fight crime, but all were ignored by the DA. That is because the party does not care about the safety of people in the province. This was affirmed by Premier Zille in this house when she told us she would only find the safety initiative in communities when her party wins national elections. We then have to ask the Premier, what caused the change of heart now that they created a wind/slash fund of 26.8 million? This slash fund is not intended for citizen impact. Instead, it is to make the failed premier candidates to look good who failed to get clean audit for 2 consecutive years. This man is just to clean the sins he has created. Under the previous MEC, the department was underfunded, which is the safety, and reduced to some oversight desk. Under a black MEC, the department was underfunded to create conditions for him to fail, and he obviously failed dismally. That the party's premier candidate is assigned to this department and is put a huge red mat of 26.8 million and is supported with more funding, as clearly shows that this is a budget for campaigning and to clean the foot of the King, Honorable Windy. In this regard, traveling cost for the MEC, as well as budget for the youth religious safety program,
Order, please.
and the militia called neighborhood watches are increased. The blockage of communist, the blockage of community policing forums by the DA is set to continue as their budget is not increased. Instead, the focus now is on neighborhood watches. For a maximum citizen impact, more funding should be made available to community crime fighting structures like the Bambanani program launched by the ANC government in this province. The Honorable Wind/Fund will remain ineffective for as long as it is invested in things like Wi-Fi instead of community structures. With the Wind/Fund, sadly, we witnessed drastic reduction in compensation of employees across all departments. This was influenced by resignations and failure to fill vacant posts. The health department is one of the most affected departments, and it's obvious under this government. This is a serious concern for me for the reasons known to all of us. Health in this province is in a state of paralysis. This is not by accident. No, it's not by accident. It's precisely because none of these middle elite white people are going to those public hospitals. That's why it's not an issue. is because none of them belong to those hospitals. It's the black majority that goes to those hospitals. This elite doesn't care about that.
So, okay.
That is not, but one would have expected a budget. That one would have expected a budget for citizen impact to cater more to address the self-orchestrated chaos in Khayelitsha District Hospital and Mitchell's Plain. And it should have made provision for the rebuilding of the Josta Hospital. Instead, condition at this hospital will deteriorate as the adjusted budget for district health service has been reduced. That shows that DA does not care about the lives of the poor and marginalized people. As the ANC, we welcome the National Government Department of Health's intervention to reprioritize 350 million to recruit in excess of 2,000 health professionals into the public health system. This was a commitment made at a presidential health summit. What are you doing in the province? The 16 days of activism, the 16 days of activism against violence against women and children from 25 November and 10 December unites people in one voice to call for an end to the Western Cape's most persistent violation of human rights, where the highest number of deaths of women and children occurred. This budget is silent on ways to improve safety for women and our children, but it is called a budget of service delivery and citizen impact. My foot. Surely, this budget will lead to more cases of child murders, such as that of Katie Peters and Stacey Adam, as the Department of Social Development decided to reduce the budget for critical programs. This shows that the DA's attitude towards women and children, it is not surprising that a DA youth leader, Fikile Mbau, appeared at Wynberg Magistrate Court yesterday for allegedly raping and impregnating a 13-year-old relative. A relative. A DA leader.
Your time has expired.
My God.
Thank you. I now see the Honourable Member Joseph.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Order, please.
The people of the Western Cape have since 2009 experienced a stable government in the Western Cape. Under the leadership of Yalan Premier Zille and a stable cabinet, the voters in this province gave the DA a mandate to govern. This mandate to govern increased from 51.9% to 59% in 2014. Speaker, ek is van mening dat die mense van die Weskaap die mandaat vir die DA nog sterker gaan maak. Toe hulle die korrupsie in die ANC regering waargeneem het, het die mense begin verstaan waaroor gaan demokrasie. Terwyl die DA goeie regering in die Weskaap handhaaf, is die ANC besig om te steel. Die korrupsie het so erg geraak dat die ANC regering 'n kommissie moes aanstel om die ANC te ondersoek. Hoekom het die ANC so lank geneem om van meneer Zuma ontslae te raak? Hoekom het die ANC toegelaat dat biljoene gesteel word en dat die armes nog armer word? Die ongekende armoede van miljoene Suid-Afrikaners onder die ANC regering kan 'n mens niks anders noem as 'n skande nie. Dis 'n skande. Spreker, ons kan nie die ANC government vertrou met 'n begroting en geld in die Weskaap nie. Ons sal dit nooit doen. Whilst the Western Cape government is busy implementing the Provincial strategic plan embedded in good government, the ANC is at war with itself, to the extent that the ANC in the Western Cape is without a leader. The caretaker leader, the honourable leader of the opposition, does not even know who to support for the leadership race in the ANC. The speaker the ANC en die EFF en die ANC is besig om die land in die grond in te bestuur. Speaker, if we reflect on the national medium-term budget policy statement, we will see that South Africa is in financial trouble. We are on a financial fiscal cliff. Our economic growth has come down from 5% in 2008 to 0.7% in 2018. Binnengevegte en staatkaping by SARS het veroorsaak dat 50 biljoen rand tekort ingevorder is. Waarom moet die belastingbetalers en gewone verbruikers en arme mense die SA Lugdiens aan die gang hou met 'n 5 biljoen begroting per jaar. Mense wat in vliegtuie sit en vliegtuie vlieg het geld. En baie mense spaar om te vlieg en ons gun hulle dit. Maar ons kan nie die ANC toelaat om die geld so te mors nie. State entities like SAA must be placed under public-private partnership. Government will then have more money to spend on the poor. The Western Cape government's decision not to introduce a fuel levy is based on research and evidence on our economic status. The main driver for the consumer price inflation is the monthly fuel price that impacts on transport. In 2005, while the province was governed by the ANC, a fuel levy of between 10 and 50 cents was proposed by the then Minister Trevor Manuel. The Western Cape is a responsible government and is very aware that the poor conditions, economic conditions like unemployment, poverty levels and inequalities does not favour a fuel levy for the Western Cape. Thus, the announcement by the Minister to drop it. Speaker, the inflation, we note, has rose to 5.1% and according to the SA stats, placing further pressure on consumer spending, which will impact negatively on economic growth. Senior citizens are mostly affected by the cost of living, and the national government must seriously investigate and review the situation of senior citizens. Speaker, South Africa is connected around the world and very well known for its collective intelligence. Our universities receive students from various backgrounds, thus proving the opportunity to generate and transmit knowledge for societal changes created by technology. This will impact on how we will manage on the fourth industrial revolution. Technology influences our perception. It changes our behavior and affects the daily lives of human beings. The shift from reliance on animals early in the 20th century has now shifted to electricity distribution followed by wired and wireless communication, placing pressure on human labor. Whilst the world is experiencing the third industrial revolution with developed digital systems and global communication systems, the fourth industrial revolution is here, meaning the future is on our doorstep. Industrial revolutions are ultimately driven by individual and collective choices. Speaker, it is very important to note that governments, investors, consumers, and regulators who adopt and implement these technologies will be associated with influence and power. Speaker, the impact on the fourth industrial revolution may point out to how unequal societies have become and how people who can afford the benefits of technology and innovation enjoy a better life. Government must invest in the foundational phase. Government must invest and place stronger emphasis on early childhood development. This investment will support lower-income families, unemployed parents, the poor, the marginalized, preparing the youth for the future and to deal with the technological challenges. I need to make this point about the 2 million donation that the ANC received from VBS Mutual Bank to fund their 2016 elections campaign. That is the truth, and the money was invested on behalf of municipalities, on behalf of the poor, under false pretenses. The Reserve Bank and other regulators were misled, hence the call for the provisional liquidation of VPS Bank. The ANC only admitted receiving 250,000 for its birthday celebrations in January this year. According to the newspaper report, the Sunday Times of 28 October 2018, 10 Limpopo municipalities, 2 in Gauteng, 1 in Mpumalanga, invested a combined 1.5 billion in the VBS Bank. And that was the only reason is to challenge the money back to the ANC. Speaker, the ANC, vir die ANC om net te sê ons gaan hierdie geld, gesteelde geld terugbetaal, is onaanvaarbaar. Die ANC in die Weskaap en die ANC in die ander provinsies moet die land en veral die arme mense om verskoning vra. Die ANC is 'n korrupte politieke party en dan wil hulle nogal die Weskaap regeer. Die mense van die Weskaap sal dit nooit toelaat dat die ANC of die EFF hierdie provinsie regeer nie. To influence national treasury as well as private sector for investing in VBS Bank is against the Municipal Financial Management Act and is nothing less than fraud and corruption. Speaker, our economic outlook, we can say from that we are technically in a recession. What we need is leadership, we need policy certainty, we need a safe environment to create business confidence, and we need fiscal discipline. Whilst we note the efforts by President Ramaphosa to draw investors to South Africa, we need to remind the ruling party it cannot be business as usual in the government and the state-owned entities. I commend the Minister of Finance, Minister May, and the Cabinet Ministers for their continuous interaction with international role players, promoting trade and economic opportunities, marketing our country and marketing the Western Cape as the best regional government in South Africa. Speaker, the reason why the Western Cape is the best in South Africa is for the following reasons. The Western Cape honor our constitution and our constitutional democracy, where we are equal citizens. Our constitutional democracy replaced the apartheid system that we called was a crime against humanity. In the Western Cape, we respect the rule of law. We respect the judicial system. We respect the independence of the court. In the Western Cape, we respect the contribution of our senior citizens, our leaders, who contributed to building this country, placing South Africa on the international stage. In the Western Cape, we respect the contribution of ordinary citizens, creating public value and working with government for the whole of society approach. In the Western Cape, we value our public-private partnerships and improve the maintenance and infrastructure. In the Western Cape, we believe in separation of party and state departments. In the Western Cape, Parliament we allows a member of the opposition to chair the Public Accounts Committee, and that speaks for itself. It doesn't happen in the other provinces. It doesn't happen in the other provinces. In the Western Cape, the senior management and all staff are not appointed on political affiliation. Freedom of association, freedom of religion, freedom of cultural practice is respected. The Western Cape government under the DA is the best run government in South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you. In the absence of the EFF, I see the Minister, Minister Bredal. Thank you.
Baie dankie, agbare Speaker, en baie dankie vir geleentheid. Agbare Speaker, daar is vandag slegs een provinsiale regering in Suid-Afrika wat met reg kan sê dat mense in die provinsie kan verseker wees van 'n beter lewe vir almal. Daardie provinsie is die Wes-Kaap. Hierdie provinsie word byna daagliks gekritiseer deur die ANC oor, so te sê, probleme in verskeie dele van die provinsie. In vergelyking met wat? In comparison to what? To Kiwa? Yeah, the ANC is a joke, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Die ANC wil voorgee dat daar geweldige behuisings, riool, safety, veiligheid kwessies in die Wes-Kaap bestaan. Maar weet u dat die feite toon 'n ander prentjie? In die tyd waar die feite moet tel, lig ek 'n paar uit. Agbare Deputy Speaker, die ANC het altyd dubbele standaarde wanneer dit kom tot die Wes-Kaap. The ANC, with their cadre benefit policy, always wants to point the finger to the Western Cape instead of telling the people about the facts. Die Wes-Kaap is vandag op elke meetbare vlak van dienslewering die best presteerde in die land. Gaan vergelyk hierdie provinsie met elke ander provinsie daar buite en u sal self vir u die vraag kan antwoord. Dit is nie ek wat so sê nie, dis nie ek wat dit proklameer nie. Dis die ouditeur-generaal, dis Stats South Africa, dis die impact wat opgestel word in die president se kantoor. Al hierdie onafhanklike verslae wys dat waar die Wes-Kaap die DA regeer ons beter as die ANC. Die armste in die Wes-Kaap het byvoorbeeld by verre die meeste en die beste toegang tot basiese dienste. The best access to basic services for the poor is in the Western Cape. Die gehalte van dienste is meetbaar beter as enige ander provinsie. If the ANC with their cadre national benefit program will just stop looting the state, there will be more money so that we can do even more, because everybody in this house must recognize that we need to do more to benefit the poorest of the poor. The ANC acknowledges and closes its eyes for the fact that if they steal on national level, there's less to spend on poverty at the end of the cycle. Die ouditeur-generaal het hierdie week of 2 gelede sy jongste auditresultate bekend gemaak vir die provinsie. Vermorste en onreëlmatige uitgawes is in die ANC-beheerde provinsies is op met 200%. 200% increase. Dit is altesaam meer as 3 miljard rand, 3 billion rand. In the Western Cape, Die totale syfer van onreëlmatige besteding is 0,01%, R200,000. Agbare Spreker. En ons vra ernstige vrae daaroor, want dit moet 0 wees. Dieselfde ouditeur-generaal het ons 83% skoon audits in die Wes-Kaap gegee. Die tweede provinsie naaste aan ons is Gauteng met 50%. Die ander ANC-beheerde provinsies is almal op 30% en laer. Dan wil hulle 'n vinger wys, agbare Deputy Speaker. Agbare Deputy Speaker, ons departemente en ons munisipaliteite is trots op ons rekord van skoon en ongekwalifiseerde audits. Belastingbetalers se geld in die Wes-Kaap eindig nie in verkiesingsveldtogte en in bankrekenings van broers en seuns van politieke leiers nie. Ons spandeer ons geld op ons armste van ons armste. Ons spandeer ons geld om die lewens van mense in die Wes-Kaap te verbeter. Geld in hierdie provinsie word bestee om mense se lewens te verbeter. Yes, we need more, to do more, but only the DA government can do that. Agbare Speaker, ons bestee sowat 90% van ons provinsiale begroting aan 2 items: skole, education, of gesondheid, health. The reasons are very obvious, because a healthy society is a happy society. A society with a good education will enter our markets and will get jobs at the end of the day. Dit is waar ons as DA-regering glo ons grootste prioriteite lê. The ANC wants to keep people dependent on grants, and that's the big difference between the two parties. En ons sien die resultate. Ons gesondheidsdienste het nie dieselfde krisis as die ANC-beheerde provinsies nie. Oorweeg die skandalige Life Isimendi saak in Gauteng, waar die ANC-regering se aksie bygedra het tot die dood van 143 weerlose mense. Wat was die ANC se reaksie? Sy keider is vroeër vanjaar weer verkies tot die ANC Gauteng se provinsiale raad, waar sy steeds dien. Dis 'n skande, agbare Deputy Speaker. The trend, you can follow this trend. You can see the previous Premier of this province, Ibrahim Rasool, is now in charge of leading the ANC campaign. They keep on recycling people with criminal records, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Deputy Speaker, agbare Speaker, die ANC onder die president Cyril Ramaphosa praat van Tumamina. Die ANC, dit beteken, agbare Speaker, dit beteken,
Orde.
agbare Speaker, dit beteken stuur my. Stuur my, agbare Speaker.
Orde.
Dit beteken stuur my. Agbare Speaker, het die president Ramaphosa al ooit Marikana gaan besoek in die Noordwes, waar die polisie 34 mynwerkers afgemaai het? Dieselfde myn waar die president destyds op die direksie gesit het. Die antwoord is nee, hy het nie. Hy weier om te gaan. Hoeveel van hierdie mynwerkers se gesinne is vergoed vir hulle lyding, soos wat die ANC-regering beloof het? Nie een nie. Hoeveel mense wat betrokke was, is al in die tronk? Nie een nie, agbare Speaker. Inteendeel, sommige soos die destydse minister van polisie, is steeds in die president se kabinet. Agbare Speaker, in die Wes-Kaap draai ons die pennies om en ons werk hard om ons mense se lewens te verander. Dit ten spyte van die enorme ekonomiese krisis waarbinne die ANC-regering hierdie land ingesleep het. Ons is steeds in 'n resessie en die ANC-regering het ongetwyfeld daartoe bygedra dat ons meer as R16 per liter vir petrol betaal en dat die inflasie die hoogte ingeskiet het. In die Wes-Kaap is die tendens egter anders en ten spyte van die enorme finansiële uitdaging kan ons spog daarmee dat tot 75% van die nuwe werksgeleenthede verlede jaar in die Wes-Kaap geskep is. Nader aan die huis is my departement van plaaslike regering se totale begroting sowat R250 miljoen. Daarmee moet ons omsien na 30 munisipaliteite en ons moet die rampe en die brande wat elke jaar ons tref bestuur. Wat kry ons in ruil? Agbare Deputy Speaker, die beste dienste aan die arme mense, funksionele rade en dorpe. Ons het onlangs weer met die brande in die Suid-Kaap gesien hoe effektief die spanne is. Hoe vinnig hulle reageer en watter uitstekende werk hulle doen. Agbare Speaker, die inwoners van die Wes-Kaap sal die DA vergoed vir goeie regering. Dankie.
Thank you. The Honourable Christians.
Deputy Speaker, the Western Cape is up for grabs come elections 2019. The facts are Ipsos gives the DA 28% and the ANC 26%. Afro Barometer gives the DA 31% and the ANC 21%. Telling us that the Western Cape is up for grabs. It also tells us that the ANC is a non-starter, but that the DA has failed the people of the Western Cape for almost 10 years. We are contesting a by-election in Graafwater where the previous DA mayor is our candidate because he's sick and tired of the DA. Jimmy Barnett, Ward 4, on the 12th of December. The people in the Western Cape is unhappy because we had more than 200 protests in this province. We had more than 200 protests in this province. People is looking for servant leaders, and we know how to serve. We know how to address the crime. We know how to address unemployment. And the ACDP is that alternative. The ACDP is ready to govern 2019. Because we are enrolling thousands and thousands of members of the DA and the ANC. The people is looking for an alternative, and we are that alternative. The ACDP is this alternative for this province. After 10 years in government, the DA still do not have answers for this province. And the ACDP is coming and saying, we are the servant leaders to sort out the problems in this province. See 2019, the DA and the ANC will not get the majority. The people has says no to them, and they're looking for the alternative. The alternative for 2019 is the ACDP. I thank you.
Thank you. Order. The Honourable Bierwinkel.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, this elitist DA government is really in a crisis, both in its policies, its internal divisions, its race debate, and its general reasoning. You cannot stand here and grandstand with some fancy worded budget, but your internal processes in its implementation makes no sense, and it's far removed from the rhetoric. We can't stand by and let everything that MEC Meyer said about this province flies in the face of reality and leave it unchallenged. This supposedly best-run province is like Henry Ford, who said you can have any color car as long as it's black. Here, you can say anything as long as it's singing your praises, their praises. People's lived experiences are very different to what you've just heard here. Money spent, I live here in the Western Cape, Deputy Speaker. I address the Western Cape and its realities. I am very aware of the Western Cape being part of South Africa, but I live here. You cannot boast here about how you spend the money, yet 304 million of your budget that's meant to employ people is handed back. Education hands back 130 million of the equitable share, which is meant to employ teachers. And you boast? Please. The notion of this best-run province obviously stems from a comment made by the Auditor General regarding audit outcomes, which we all know are but snapshots of every department and is mostly about compliance. It has nothing to do with your core business, which is providing services and changing the lives of all citizens for the better, or for the entrenched right to oversight. The Auditor General doesn't express an opinion on that. We hold you to account for that in our oversight role. Conveniently, nothing is said about a specific department who did not submit, and I want to correct untruths that have been spread here now or by MEC, hopeful Premier, yes, I'm coming there, new MEC of Community Safety. For 2 consecutive years, they did not submit. And they are taking that very AG whom they are boasting about, tells them that they're the best, that very AG they're taking to court because he did not sing their praises. The result, Deputy Speaker, is that as Scoper, we have had a protracted battle with the DA who are hell-bent on not having that department come to account for the work of the past 2 years, and our right to hold them to account has been stalled by numerous shenanigans. They have not presented the report to Scoper. They have not. Firstly, trying to hide behind a sub judice rule that is not applicable or relevant, and now trying to further curtail our right to oversight by determining which pages we have a right to question. This last issue, Deputy Speaker, was taken in a back room here in the Kaap where we were hidden to cover up so that the rest of the press and the rest of this building couldn't listen to the debate that we were having. Scoper has degenerated into a party political playing field using votes to bully opposition. This is the DA of the best-run province that purports to run an open society province. Facts to remember. Background to that. The Speaker was informed on the 28th of September by MEC Windy that he is about to serve papers on the AG. On the 30th of October, we are stopped in our tracks by a letter sent to that committee by the Speaker. This action prompted by some official who felt the need to stop us using Rule 61. For 4 consecutive meetings, Deputy Speaker, 4 consecutive meetings, we were bullied by votes and absolute party political cover-up for either their refusal to accept a clear and concise legal opinion about the sub judice rule, which then and now still is not applicable. They will not accept the responsibility for the fact that the Speaker, who had been informed on the 28th of September already, and her letter to us is the reason that we have not yet dealt with agriculture's 2 years of annual reports. We reject the final arrogant response to a request from the committee for the reason which gave rise to these delays. You will not bully us into silent submission to accept a response which clearly is both contradictory and false. At some point, you need to pay attention to this prayer that is read here every time we come in here. Listen to the words that are uttered. The lengths to which this DA government will go to cover up what is wrong is just mind-boggling. And this morning, Scoper's meeting is a proof of exactly that. This is the same practice in municipalities where the opposition is bullied by votes for them to get their way. But wait, why were their voices so deafening in their silence when Patricia de Lille was fighting for her rights within the DA, fighting for what was right, silent? Remember, the public, investors, and the world watched your unraveling on a daily basis as it confirmed to them what they always knew. They had ring seats to the circus. If you recognize stupidity, as the MEC Mayor said, then recognize it across the board, amongst your own as well. Today, the lobbying of a position that they clearly knew was wrong, standing in the way of our right to access for information, all in the name of party political cover-up by the head puppeteer, the chief whip, continued. This will not end our fight for justice or our right to play our oversight role. We will continue that without fear or favor. You are well known for bashing national government. Maybe you should take a page out of their book and see how they deal with their own in Scoper. But back to the reality here. Ironically, Chief Deputy Speaker, the MEC whose department we were trying to debate is the person who is now your premier candidate.
In his dreams.
He speaks about ethics and truth and values, and we need to deal from the top. apply that to your own. But let's backtrack a bit. First, how did he get there? First, MEC Bongi Madikizela is elected as the leader. The poster boy, the image, the future of how the DA wants to portray itself, the one he is to woo the black vote. Come the elective conference, the white elite cabal chooses white again, because to them, white is right. Why else would you remove the person with a legitimate expectation to follow up the steps to Leuvenhof in favor of a white candidate? Back to the Premier. It's under this very Premier candidate, Deputy Speaker, it's under his very watch that their flagship entity, Westgrow, is the only entity that has regressed this year, after so many years, for the first time. It's the same MEC under whose watch farm workers don't yet enjoy freedom that has been hard fought for them. They still live in the worst conditions imaginable, as was recently witnessed during a by-election in the Dorans. And again now in Ceres, where the farmers refuse the workers their right to information. Yet they are masters at intimidating their workers in a direction that they should vote. They are continuously evicted, treated badly, worse than animals, and in a recent newspaper article on a farm not far from here in Simondium, were without water for days, their basic right. Under his watch, SMMEs were finding it so difficult to survive because of all the hoops they have to jump to make an honest living, also the cost of getting assistance from institutions set up for that very purpose. That same MEC now realizes that for the economy to grow, you need to address crime, and hence chose to take over community safety again, trying to show up white is right and show up Dan Plato as useless. Funds are now siphoned off from other departments to fund this campaign trail. Why is it that shifts environments can now so easily happen? In actual fact, to duplicate a national initiative of the anti-gang unit, which you now have to backtrack on and support. This is the same MEC who tells coloured voters on this campaign trail that the police alone cannot solve the problem. We've always said that. We need all hands on deck. Why now suddenly? You realize that it's not only the police. We've often been telling you that until you deal with a societal degradation and moral decay, crime will flourish. Police are the plaster. You need to find the root cause of the problem. And again, this is the MEC under whose watch the economy of the province was supposed to turn around and jobs created, but more especially the entry-level micro-enterprises were supposed to flourish. No wonder you are quiet. The reality is the unemployment rate is skyrocketing.
Remember, your time has expired. We'll allow you the last sentence to finish off.
Can I find that last sentence? An inordinate amount of wasteful... but let me just say this, Speaker. This DA Parliament needs to learn to communicate, learn to listen and respond to communities. But how can we expect any better when it's in this very Parliament where a notion that public hearings is not public participation?
Thank you. Time has expired.
Thank you.
The Honourable Nkosela.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I would have appreciated at least to hear from the opposition, just like the President has done, His Excellency Honourable Cyril Ramaphosa Umatamela Ute last week, on Thursday. Thank you, Western Cape, for achieving clean audits, because all provinces must get clean audits. But you have nothing to say about that. You have nothing to say about that. I'm going to implore you to go to your offices or go to the library and read these two books. Read these books. The AG does not hold political office and has no intention. The AG reports on facts. and you must read facts. All right. Now, point number one, in every
Order.
by-election,
Member, please.
We have
Order.
made-
Member, address the chair, please. Maybe it will assist with the calmness in the House. You may continue, but speak through the chair.
every by-election, the Democratic Alliance, without fail, has been reaffirmed, reconsolidated as the only political party in this province where voters have confidence. And I can tell you now, I heard Honorable Christians saying all sorts of things about the Democratic Alliance. He's serving there as the chair of the committee at our behest. Because we believe that, in fact, it is good to have a multiplicity of ideas and ensure that there is a festival of ideas when we deal with parliamentary matters. And it cannot be correct when you've got a political party, by the way, this honorable member, through you, Deputy Speaker, who came here and said those who are from the LGBTI communities do not belong in our communities. That is the kind of political party we can go to voters and tell, don't vote for the people who hate you, don't vote for people who want to divide our communities. Now, the city of Cape Town, Honorable Deputy Speaker, was the only municipality that received clean audit in 2009 because the mayor was Helen Zille through that multi-party government that we had. And I can tell you, since then, when we had 0 clean audits out of all other 29 municipalities. But to date, in this province, the majority of clean audits are under the DA when the ANC failed to do so. We've done that over the past 9 years. That is the DA difference. That is how the DA proves that where we govern well. Not this nonsense under the ANC government. Let me go further. In Limpopo, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I'm coming to Overstrand. In Limpopo, Honorable Deputy Speaker, more than 90% of the budget is spent on salaries. We are saying in this province that will never happen under a DA government because we believe in spending money on the people, not in our own stomachs. And that is what we've done, and that is what we are doing in this province. Honorable Makatla, it will be a disservice if I don't respond to you, sir. Out of respect, this is a budget for the people. This is a budget for a good governance, a good DA story. That is the budget. Now, unemployment under your government, Honorable Makatla, in this country has risen to almost 10 million people. More than 500,000 graduates under your government, Honorable Makatla, through you, Deputy Speaker, and more than 500,000 graduates are unemployed in South Africa. Where are you taking this country? That is why next year we need a total change. We need a new dawn, a DA dawn, not this nonsense of Ramaphosa. Honorable Deputy Speaker,
Order.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, under the ANC government in this country, because we have to contrast here. We've got to put facts. Honorable Makatla made a mistake, chose Cuba as an example. Cuba. Let me tell you something about Cuba. Cuba has the lowest salaries in the global index. In Cuba pays its employees just about $20 a month, a mere salary. And then you are saying it must be an example. You are an embarrassment as the ANC in this country to think that you must feed yourself and have big tummies, even put kolo, and be the only ones and the rest must go to bed without eating. That is why South Africa today under the ANC government, by the World Bank, not me, the World Bank, go and read the report. It says it is the most unequal country in the world. And people live at a salary of less than 992 rands a month. And now, no, I don't need water. I've got water. Thank you. I don't need your water. Your water will run out.
Order.
More than 30 million South Africans in this country under the ANC government live below poverty line at 992 rands. And this is the problem we are having. Because in this province, things are moving. Siyaqhuba simanga sihamba. Abantu bayawubona umahluko, the DA difference in this province. And this is the ANC, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Order, member, just 1 second. Honorable Janchi, do you want to ask a question?
Talking rubbish.
Order.
Is that the reason?
Order. I did not hear what you're saying. Say again.
The Sierra Leone guests have just left. I'm just checking if they have left because they can no longer listen to the rubbish that is being presented here.
Order, member. That's a frivolous point of order. Please don't waste the time of the House. Member, you may continue.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. No, they are leaving because they can sense that there's nothing there next to you. They want to sit this side. They want to sit this side. They can't sit next to an embarrassment there. 31% of the municipalities, Honorable Deputy Speaker, that is 66 municipalities in this country, under the ANC are bankrupt. That is the DA story that you are telling. Because where we are in government, it's clean. Where the ANC is in government, it's dirty. It smells. It's bankrupt. Irregular expenditure has risen from 16 billion rands to 28 billion rands. That is 75% increase since last year under this ANC. And it's smelling. And it takes more than 90 days to pay service providers. More than 90 days. That is the ANC story. In the DA province, it takes less than 30 days to pay suppliers. That is the DA story, a story that we are bringing in the rest of the country, in this whole South Africa.
Order.
We are bringing that story.
Order. Member, just take your seat. Honorable Berenko.
Deputy Speaker, can I ask, can you ask the member if he will take a question?
Member, are you prepared to take a question?
When I'm done, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
The answer is no for the moment. You may continue.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, it will be a disservice if I don't respond to Honorable Pierre Wengel. I love her so much. She's saying here, and you could see she tried, She tried to engage us, raising some pertinent issues, but you could see she's under extreme pressure because she's not getting her job back. And because we would like to welcome her, but it's difficult because the ANC is not bringing her back to Parliament. In fact, the ANC has not taken seriously diversity in South Africa. Social cohesion has meant nothing for the ANC. They do not see South Africans as the whole. In Overstrand, Honorable Dagmo, there's not a single councillor of a different race except Abatetis Xhosa Abanjengamna. Only black councillors in Overstrand, nobody else. So, Honorable Pierre Wengel, there's no future for you there. There's no future. Because all those sitting with you, they don't see you as being part of them. Even Honorable Dagmo, it's tough. Because the ANC conference that's coming, you're not going to get it. Lusemba Gwako will get it. So those are the problems that we are dealing with. But I can tell you, this budget is bringing hope. This budget is bringing the sense of ownership and the sense of responsibility, and people are realizing that under the DA, only the DA will save South Africa.
Thank you, member. Your time has expired. Order. The Honourable Minister of Finance to respond. Order, please come to order. The Minister wants to start his reply. Honourable Makaleni, I'm also referring to you. Minister, you may proceed.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker, and thank you for the colleagues who took part in this debate. I want to reply to the Leader of the Official Opposition. I noted that when he spoke, sorry, the acting leader, I noted that the Minister of Health laughed when he referred to those doctors of Cuba. And I am particularly, because that project has been cancelled. It shows that the Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition doesn't work with the latest facts when he debates in this House. But the Honourable Member, their research capacity is nowhere. But the Honourable Member is the only member in this House that is a member of the Communist Party. And the problem is this. This is the problem. It is the second Secretary General, Mr. Soli
Honourable
Mapaila.
Janki, please.
Okay, the Secretary General, your friends in your senior leadership in the SA Communist Party replied recently when he heard that President Zuma wants to campaign in their election. The SACP, his party, said they will refuse to campaign for the ANC. So this is one honourable member that's not going to campaign for the ANC because his party has indicated they must not campaign for the ANC election. But there is a serious matter. So there is going to be another party.
Order.
So this honourable acting member won't campaign for the African National Congress because his leadership has indicated when Zuma campaigned, they are not on the streets to campaign for the ANC. Honourable Speaker, but Deputy Speaker, there is a serious matter here. There is a serious matter, and I know that the Minister of Health is a Honourable Deputy Speaker.
Order, Minister. Order, please come to order. I want the Minister to proceed.
Honourable Member Dakmo, I know the Minister of Health is a very caring minister. She's a compassionate minister. And I know that if there is a serious matter that the Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition brought to this House, I know she will investigate this matter that was raised by the Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition. Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Order. Minister Marikizela and Mr. Magaka, please contain yourself. We only have one speaker at a time, and I want to hear the Minister. Minister, please proceed.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, if the Honourable Member Janki said there is not sense when his leader referred to the matter that is of serious nature that caused his family pain, and Honourable Member Janki doesn't regard that as a serious matter, I want to differ with him. It is a serious matter, and I think the Minister of Health will take that matter up because we are a caring government. We are a government that is compassionate when people are in pain. Honourable Member, Deputy Speaker, but there is an issue here. When I tabled the main budget, I indicated a fiscal risk statement. One of those risks that I've identified during the tabling of the main budget was the issue of safety. That risk has now materialized, and because the risk has materialized, both in the medium-term budget policy statement as well as in the adjustment budget, we have prioritized, as this cabinet, we have prioritized that we give impact in terms of those risks. So there were two main risks, the one of the drought, and this cabinet has responded 1.2 billion rand to the drought. We have also responded, Honourable Deputy Speaker, to the issue of safety in the adjustment budget because the ANC cadres are burning the province all over the south. We're not going to sit back. We're going to deal with it, and we have dealt with in the adjustment budget. So there is a risk. The risk has materialized, and this cabinet has responded to the risk in terms of the budget. So, Honourable Deputy Speaker, a capable state is now responding to prioritize safety. But I also notice, Honourable Deputy Speaker, many of them there have not read what is in front of them. They haven't read what is in front of them. Right in front of them is the ATC. In the ATC, they have now opposed that this cabinet, no, I'm not losing anything. And I will come to your objection. We have noticed now your objection that we prioritize the safety of the citizens of the Western Cape. Dennis, I think, Honourable Member Joseph, the chair of the Standing Committee on Finance and the chair of the Budget Committee, is correct when he says we cannot and will not allow, the voters will not allow the ANC to touch the taxpayers or the public money, because we have seen what has happened in the rest of the country. The Honourable Member, the Minister of Community Safety, he has a clear vision. The first responsibility of a state is to provide for the safety of its citizens. And so my Honourable Cabinet colleague, the Minister of Windy, has outlined a clear vision to make the Western Cape the safest place on the African continent. Honourable Deputy Speaker, my Cabinet colleague, Minister Bradell, is also right, because the Western Cape is on record, as he pointed out, the best run government in terms of the basic service delivery indicators. Honourable Member Bradell also outlined clearly, supported with evidence, that the Western Cape is doing the most for the poor in South Africa. Achtbare Minister Bradell het ook aangedui hoe die ANC regerings die staatskas leegsteel. My colleagues argued rightfully that this is the only government in South Africa that does not steal. Everywhere the ANC touches institutions, public funds are looted. The ANC leadership in this debate, the ANC leadership gave the ANC a license to loot. I think Minister Bradell is right. There's a crisis in the ANC. When you bring back a former discredited premier, former ambassador to the United States, and you recycle him into the body politic, there is something missing in your space, because there is a motion of no confidence in the leadership of the ANC in the Western Cape. That's why the recycling is taking place. We know what Rasool is up to. We know how he's going to recycle Yankee out of this house. This is the plan of Rasool, to recycle Yankee out into the NCOP. And so we have intercepted the intelligence from Rasool that he needs to go to the NCOP. But I think, Honourable Deputy Speaker, Minister Bradell is right when he speaks about Tuma Mina, because Tuma Mina is translated in Afrikaans and in platteland, Tuma steel meer. That's what it's translated to in the platteland. That the Western Cape is not up for grabs. The ANC is a non-starter, I agree. But our analysis shows that the protests are more linked to the non-delivery of ANC national government departments in the Western Cape. The coastal economy is a national government competence. They failed to do that, and many of these things are in that space. This government is delivering, and you, Honourable Deputy Speaker, they cannot complain about the track record of this government, because they have approved in this House the annual report which states the delivery record of this government. So they have approved the annual report in this House, the delivery record of this government. When this House approved the annual report, you gave a blessing to say, this is indeed the best government in South Africa. You have approved our excellent service delivery record when the House approved the various annual reports. That's a free workshop for you. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I see in the report that the ANC, right in front of us here now, in the documents, this ANC has now rejected the following. They've rejected the proposal that we invest 30 billion rand infrastructure investment. They have rejected proposals to build new schools. They have now rejected the building of new clinics and hospitals and ambulance and EMS. They have now rejected, in the documentation in front of them, the fiscal framework, they've rejected a 2 billion rand investment in Tygerberg Hospital. That's what they've rejected. They haven't read the minutes. I've seen the minutes. It's right in front of them. They've also rejected here, when you reject this fiscal framework, you reject the injection into the economy in Atlantis. They've rejected the investment in the IDZ. They've rejected. The president is coming next week. But you rejected it, and you come to the president. You have rejected it. Read the documents in front of you, the ATC. You rejected the Atlantis SEZ. Now you want to be seen. But I will tell the... We note that they have now voted against a 2.3 billion rand to help the poor. We note that in the case of transport and public works, the ANC voted now against 7.7 billion rand. We note that they have voted against a 23 billion rand in health. We note that you have voted against a 22 billion rand in education. We note that you have just voted against informal settlement upgrade of 2.4 billion rand. You have now voted against 3.5 billion rand for road infrastructure maintenance. So, Honourable Deputy Speaker, we have now seen what has happened in this House. They voted against our plans to support the youth. They have voted against us creating jobs. The ANC has voted against good plans of this government. You voted against the creation of jobs. You voted against investment in infrastructure. The ANC voted against creating safety. You voted against investment in the youth. But the point of Honourable Member Mkasela is absolutely right. The AG confirmed the Western Cape received the best audit outcomes. And so, Honourable Member Mkasela point out that the ANC only spend money on their stomachs. But I am concerned that the Honourable Member of the official opposition use Cuba and Venezuela as examples. We have met members of parliament of Cuba. They came to South Africa. They told us what happened in Venezuela. In Venezuela in 1999, they changed the constitution. In 2011, they amended the legislation to expropriate land without compensation. What subsequently happened, Honourable Deputy Speaker, the politicians in Venezuela, they got land. There was food security were compromised. They had to import more food. Food riots happened. People were told plant vegetables on your roof and on your balcony, on your stoop. There was a crisis in Venezuela. But Deputy Speaker, when there was food riots, there was compromise as a result of the food distribution network, and the Venezuelan government brought in the army to assist with the food distribution. The economy collapsed and inflation has went through the roof. Honourable Deputy Speaker, in this debate, there is only two things that has happened here. There is the packaging of two different political philosophies. And that political philosophies can be captured in one where they loot as a license to loot. That's the first philosophy. But there is a second philosophy, and this debate is about this license to loot, and the second debate was about building a capable state. This part of the House is building a capable state. That side of the House has a license to loot. I thank you.
Order. Order, please pay attention. Order. That concludes the debate on the Honourable Makaleni. That concludes the debate on the consideration of the principle of the bill. Are there any objections to the approval of the principle? There is no objection. Are you asking for a division or simply recording? The ANC's opposition dissent will be recorded. The Secretary will read the bill.
Adjustments Appropriation Bill.
The House will deal with the separate votes from tomorrow onwards, the following 2 days. May I just at this point remind members that the scope of the debate on the votes will be limited to the adjustments in the Blue Book, either the new amounts given to the various programs or the moving, shifting of votes environments in the votes. So if members must be aware not to build the whole speech on comparisons with other provinces. That's in order to a point, but the substance of the speech must be limited to the contents of the Blue Book. The Secretary will read the second order. Secretary will read the order.
Consideration of report of the Budget Committee on the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill B34 2018 NCOP ratification of final mandate.
Order. The House received the report of the Budget Committee on the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill conferring authority on the Western Cape delegation in the NCOP to not support the bill. That mandate has been sent to the NCOP. I will now give an opportunity to parties that want to make a declaration of vote. Honourable Bierwinkel.
Thank you, Chairperson. It's an honour for me to support this DORA sent to this province to do what they purport to be their work, but I would like them also to tell the national government how they now have voted against the very money that has been given to them about what they stand and boast in front of us now. Exactly the same thing you've just told us now. You rubbish. Everything has just been sent back to you. We support
Thank you.
Speaker. Tell the President, take all your speeches to the President, tell him how you've rubbished them, but how you accept their DORA money and now vote against it.
Order. Order. In the absence of the EFF and the ACDP, I see the DA. The DA.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape rejects the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill as the legislation calls for provinces to tighten their belts in the face of severe budget cuts while national government continues to waste billions of public funds on costly bailout schemes instead of addressing the gross mismanagement of the national fiscus. The Western Cape is the only province in Africa which has complied with national government calls to be financially prudent in the face of year-on-year of stagnant economic growth for which the ANC at national government is solely responsible. As it stands, the national fiscal deficit has seen a 22 billion rand increase in the 2018-19 financial year, increasing to 33 billion in the 1920 financial year and 41 billion in the 2021 financial year. Police resources to continue to be cut in the Western Cape while crime is on the rise. And 30 municipalities in the province are struggling to provide basic services due to limited resources and the ratio of the conditional grants which remains unchanged. And I just need to say to the ANC members, honourable members on the other side, the call for the specialised units is a call that the DA has made for many years and national government is only responding now. That is true. Furthermore, during the medium-term budget policy statement this year, there were no clear strategies to improve oversight on underperforming state-owned entities, enterprises and municipalities. The existing turnaround strategies for national state-owned government enterprises has failed dismally, with South African Airways and Eskom receiving 5 billion bailout each year. It is inconceivable that the ANC can spend public funds so recklessly and drive the country's economy into the ground, only to instruct the provinces to spend more wisely. The 1% VAT increase earlier this year is because of ANC corruption, nothing else. The Western Cape is expected to sustain the best quality government in the country in the face of severe budget cuts. While our province is placed under further strain by the migration of residents from neighbouring provinces that seeks a better service delivery and a better life for all. Each year, more than 20,000 learners come from the other provinces to seek a better education in the Western Cape. Our province has not budgeted for this increase, and yet we manage to go beyond service delivery to accommodate these learners with their families. Furthermore, the equitable share is not aligned to the estimated 600,000 population growth in the Western Cape since 2011, We cannot continue to be expected to serve the growing population while national government continues to cut our budget allocation and expect us to adjust our spending. Speaker, we do, however, note and welcome the much-needed additional revenue for drought relief and fire disasters as our province grapples with the effects of climate change and our natural resources.
Order.
The DA in the Western Cape rejects the DORA and shifts the responsibility to effectively manage the national fiscus onto the ailing provincial budgets. We will not allow the ANC to bulldoze through legislation which erodes financial accountability at national level and does not adequately allocate funds to the provinces. I thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Since there are objections to the ratification of this, Honourable Chair, the objection of the ANC be recorded?
Chair, I listened to you, Honourable Joseph, but could he just clarify whether the DA supports this or not? Because from what he said, it wasn't actually clear. Are they actually against the DORA or are they in favour?
They will have an opportunity now to say. There is an objection to the ratification. The ANC's objection will be recorded. We move to the next one. The Secretary will read the third order.
Consideration of report of the Standing Committee on Local Government on the Traditional and Khoisan Leadership Bill B23D 2015 NCOP, ratification of final mandate.
The House received the report of the Standing Committee on Local Government on the Traditional and Khoisan Leadership Bill, conferring authority on the Western Cape delegation in the NCOP not to support this bill. This mandate has been sent to the NCOP. I will again allow opportunity for declaration of vote. Is there somebody from the ANC? Not? Then the DA.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. The Standing Committee resolved not to support the bill. And the issue here is really on the basis of fairness, on the basis of equality, and on the basis of justice. We are an organization, and this parliament, by the way, Honourable Deputy Speaker, is premised and built on the foundations of democracy that recognizes justice as the pillar of that democracy, and that recognizes equality as the pillar of that democracy. And when you look at this bill in its current form, Section 6 and Section 7 of this bill puts it clear that it does not recognize equality of the Khoisan leaders compared to the other traditional leaders. Now, where are we going if we are going to have other traditional leaders treated so differently from others, as if others are less important than others? Because this is a reincarnation of the apartheid style of doing things in this country, and we cannot accept it, and certainly not this parliament.
Order. I remember, why are you raising now? On?
For the ANC.
I've asked whether the ANC had somebody, nobody stood up. I will allow you, but this is not in terms of the normal order. The normal order is the ANC first and the governing party last. Please proceed.
Okay. Let's hear what the ANC says. The ANC supports the bill, which is aimed at making provision for the recognition of the Khoi and the San traditional leadership. The bill also aims to address the current limitations of existing legislation pertaining to the sections of the National House of Traditional Leaders Act of 2009, the Local Government Infrastructures Act of 1998, the Remuneration of Public Office Act of 1998, and the Independent Commission for the Remuneration of Public Officers Bearers Act of 1997. The ANC encourages the leadership of the Khoi and San communities to actively participate in the traditional governance structures of the state. The ANC supports the plight of the Khoi and the San. We recognize the contribution of the Khoi and the San people in the Western Cape and South Africa. The ANC commits to further support the Heritage Declaration request of the Khoi and the San on land which has significant cultural and heritage value for them. The ANC will never pursue the gentrification of sacred land of the Khoi and the San unlike what the DA is doing at Leesburg to Rivers Park, Urban Park, at the River Club. Strong core and sand leadership structures are required to resist the so-called mixed development on sacred land, and where ancestors of the Khoi and the San people lived for hundreds of years. We support the bill.
I then I put the question, are there any objections to the ratification of the conferment of authority on the Western Cape delegation in the NCOP not to support the bill? There is an objection. The ANC's dissent will be recorded. That then brings us to the conclusion of the business for the day. Before the House adjourned, let me remind members the House starts at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning and the House is adjourned.